breaking rules like Twigs, parodying itself and other manga in the very same magazine, and even the magazine itself, which it directly insults various times, taking powers to their utmost extreme, and Kumagawa frickin' Masogi. These are some of the elements that make up the manga series Medaka Box that I'll be reviewing today. There was little hope in the beginning, and I'm not talking about the manga storyline, I mean for the manga itself. The manga was written by Nisio Isin, the acclaimed god of light novels, so many people were disappointed at first when the story was focused on Medaka and the exploits of how perfect and great she was, while Zenkichi played second banana. It was consistently in the last 5 of the Jump rankings. This triggered a gigantic genre change that I'll get to in a bit. Going into this manga that it would be some heavy romance is a fatal mistake and is what a lot of people indeed did do when it started. This is because the one-shot set their expectations up for that, and when the manga kinda, well, just didn't go that route, they were pissed and really whiny about it. Understandable, since this is frickin' Nisio Isin, the author of Bakemonogatari series, Katanagatari, and Zerigato. He's won many awards, and he just started out this manga fairly generically. It starts in a school setting with Medaka winning the election for a student council president by an enormous landslide of 98%, and she was irked that she didn't get that remaining 2%, with the council solving problems through their suggestion box, which is the series' namesake, Medaka Box, where they could fill any request, any at all. People asked insightful questions like, couldn't a student just ask her for sex? That's what we have Japan's thriving doujin community for, folks. And yes, I've heard wind of one where they address exactly that. The manga uses its beginning arc to lay the foundation of the characters, mostly and explore the mechanics of the Medaka Box plot device. Many people enjoyed the first 1 or 2 chapters, but their enjoyment quickly fell off for a while. They just weren't used to seeing a character quite as perfect as Medaka. She could excel at anything she did, whether it made sense or not. She could balance on tiny water donuts with just some toes, and stand up perfectly straight. She was a genius. Her family supposedly even made the backbone of the entire economy. She was the ultimate alpha female, except for animals. She kinda sucks with those. It's actually rather hilarious to me that cliché used to be a term you could describe this series with, but it was. People were just expecting more. Now, Nisio's dialogue in this manga and his other works I've been a fan of from day one, as well as the art. Both aspects of the series are sharp and crisp and never fail to deliver. There were some things that kept people hanging on before the massive genre shift into what we know today, such as Shiranui, a lolly that can devour food at the rate of 200 donuts per hour into her gaping mouth with seemingly no repercussions. People both found her entirely amusing and wondered how her role would play out, as she seemed to have a wide net of information and she was always behind the scenes in the shadows. People also hoped it would return to the roots of the one-shot and have Medaka openly admit her flaws more and have those flaws played on, and have Zenkichi, her childhood friend, play more of a prominent role. The conflict with Unzin, a super genius child who challenges Medaka's worldview and completely opposes it, is considered by many to be where the series starts its upswing. While Medaka believes that humans are naturally good, Unzin believes humans are naturally depraved and has an Akainu-esque justice is meaningless if you don't go overboard philosophy that he embellishes with super violence. How does he do this? Balls. Balls. Lots of them. Super balls that can destroy shit and bounce all over the place. This is where you start to realize, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't going to be a rom-com, because superpower feats and physical feats keep escalating. Not only are these super balls a completely fun and crazy idea, Medaka starts leaving after images of what seems like several people when she runs, rides a bike extremely fast to save Zenkichi and company from another clinch. Medaka punches through Unzin's high impact and high heat resistance vest, and Medaka basically transforms into a demigod type form modeled after Perseus, the Titan of Destruction. An important line of dialogue is said by Medaka in this conflict, which is, I am never right, but I try to be right. She's not quite as perfect as people were originally assuming, although she obviously out-perfectioned all us mere mortals a long time ago. By this point, you should have realized this is by no means trying to be realistic in any manner, shape, or form. This is the point. where you should embrace the fact that, holy shit, this manga does some really crazy stuff that defies logic. I should either stick along for the roller coaster of crazy or bail out. Some people did not bail out when they were still expecting the series to maintain realism. This is dumb, because the series has had the underpinnings of a battle manga with the way it kept amping up Medaka's feats, and that brings us to our gigantic genre shift. From romance comedy to battle manga. This is where the first shift begins. Yes, this manga plays around with genres multiple times, and even becomes so meta that people can't even define it by the end. This is where the manga at the very least becomes interesting, if fairly standard, though I wouldn't even really say it's just standard at this point, simply because of the dynamic art that brings life to every panel and spread. Unzen and his newly introduced sister are the catalyst to the Flash Plan arc, which further explores the theme of perfection in humans. The Flash Plan is essentially about recreating Kurakami Medaka, the ideal perfect human, and brings into play Class 13, a band of supermutant X-Men brand students. This is not without its drawbacks, such as the fact that the school chairman is literally going to kill students in favor of the Flash Plan. Medaka vehemently disagrees with the chairman's views, so she decides to oppose the 13th party, and this is the start of our self-proclaimed shitty battle manga. Yes, the manga calls itself shitty. Fourth walls are kind of flimsy in Medaka Box. Isolation and loneliness are very much something a perfect being would experience, and this is explored when Medaka realizes she's unconsciously smiling when another super powerful Class 13 abnormal, Odo, brings her to her knees and asks that she date him. Isolation among the abnormals is further explored in the flashback in which almost every single abnormal seems to be socially segregated one way or another from their citizens and peers, always because of their ability that many of them considered a curse. Medaka also has a bit of an interesting twist on the whole I've got a Mamoru what I want a Mamoru, which is a famous theme in many manga of protecting others, and Mamoru means protect, obviously. Instead of just protecting friends, she wants to protect strangers and even her enemies. I suppose you could call this the perfect spin on protection. Maguro helps her achieve this by training her and Zenkichi in a very brisk, glossed-over training arc which will be refreshing for some, while others prefer to see their training arcs. I myself just wanted to get to the battles and dig my teeth further into the behind-the-scenes work of the Flash Plan, which was sure to be of interest, so I was glad it went by quick. Akune gets some development in this arc in that he actually felt helpless when Unzen was on the attack. We also get some insights into what the childhoods of the normals are like in this arc, with Takahiko, the first opponent, who has amazing reflexes, thinking he was a freak rather than special when his parents died in a car accident between a tractor and a tour bus, and a very abnormal wreck. He had the reflexes to excel at sports but not to save his family. Zenkichi remarks that Medaka is perhaps becoming an experiment because in that intense battle with Takahiko, she learned to turn on her reflexes which were turned off before, evident when she let herself get smashed by an iron ball. He thinks this is all a ploy to tweak Medaka further. The next fight is pretty unanimously liked, where Zenkichi finally gets his turn in the limelight as he fights a serial killer who would kill you for twitching or saying you thought he was a nice person. Zenkichi creatively dismantles and reflects his weapons while Medaka is relegated to the peanut gallery, which most people thoroughly enjoyed. As she was hogging the spotlight for a long time, many were complaining that Medaka treated Zenkichi no different than anyone else, so how are they supposed to have any chemistry? But Medaka reveals in this fight that Zenkichi is the dude for her and that she likes him, even saying, "Go get him, tiger!" with a cute face. This fight also explores an alternate reality where Zenkichi could have died, because for at least a brief moment the audience probably thought Zenkichi was dead when he was stabbed by 5 swords with his guard down, as Medaka wails in the background. This would explain why Medaka feels the need to put authority over others, something Shiranui hates about her, so that they don't get put in danger, and so the responsibility lies on her for problems. The titular character Kumagawa keeps getting mentioned throughout tiny specks of flashbacks, and he's known as the only person Medaka couldn't convert to her ways, and this girl will even give passionate kisses to the same gender in swimsuits to convert them. Stop, boner, we don't have time for this, I'm reviewing a clusterfuck of a series. Anyway, in these flashbacks, Kumagawa is the one who puppeteers Akune to attack Medaka, who used to be known as the Destroyer and is much more humble now. Medaka demonstrates her self-sacrificing Jesus-like nature while she'll take beating after beating just to reform one person. She takes Akune's attacks repeatedly, her injuries just getting more gruesome each time. The next battle involves Koga and Naze, an athletic person who is converted to abnormalhood and experimented on by a super scientist Naze. Akune's development from destroyer to reform status by Medaka gets touched up a little bit. Sorry. But Akune feeling remorse for breaking Koga's leg. Naze's attitude in particular is quite interesting and is quite a subversion from the norm. As she was thrust into a spoon-fed rich upbringing but hated happiness, so to subject herself to hellish circumstances, she avoided them and buried herself in books. Naze, Medaka's long-lost sister, was actually better than Medaka at something, and that was biology after subjecting herself to torturous amounts of study. Something to note. It's also revealed that it can turn into a normal and vice versa via Naze's syringes. Medaka's undying hope in other people that are close to her is exploited when she injects herself with a syringe twice that could have any kind of effect on her, even kill her, or contain deadly poison. This erases both her abnormality and personality temporarily. Naze plans to reform her personality along with Odo, the guy who can make people kneel. A new organization is introduced who will prove to be fodder for the grand entrance of this character that some people claim they read the manga solely for, Kumagawa Misogi. Their abilities are revealed in a rather pointless battle, but you get to see some kind of weird powers for your money, like hair manipulation. The fight between Kikaijima and Oda's partner in crime proves to be pretty entertaining, with Kikaijima utilizing her quote-unquote special lungs and even ripping off fingernails, sacrificing on behalf of Medaka in a cycle of sacrifice. The climactic Odo battle with the newly brainwashed Medaka version 2 reveals quite a few things about her character. One, that in a flashback, Kumagawa told her impressionable little self that life had no meaning. She was already wondering why she was born, because she was already surpassing experts in all fields. She meets Zenkichi in just a bit, influenced by Kumagawa's words and leading down his path, when she solves all of Zenkichi's puzzles rudely and Zenkichi is amazed. She herself is unimpressed and thought the action was meaningless, but Zenkichi assures her that the reason she was born was to help other people. This action influenced her to be what she is today. Now, of course, it didn't have to be Zenkichi that said the words, but it explains how their lifelong relationship began and the ideological influence Zenkichi had on Medaka. He made her what she is today, when she could have been a force of destruction in Kumagawa's wake. That's the point. Someone could have said the same words Zenkichi said to her, but maybe not. Alright, in Medaka's fight with Odo, it is revealed that she has a beast inside her that no human can withstand when he tries to steal her ability with unreasonable taxation. Her ability is the end, the ability to absorb other abilities, and I wish the beast inside her was explored more. I thought it was a cool plot element when it popped up. We've reached the point of no return where things get infinitely more interesting. Medaka returns to the first floor to be utterly horrified to find the +6 and the loser team both basically crucified on the walls with gigantic screws. A suave bastard creeps in with an empty smile and says, "It's not my fault." Keep in mind this is the only person Medaka has failed to reform, the person who has been present in Medaka's life in very negative ways throughout the previous flashbacks, the person who could have potentially destroyed her life from a very young age. He has the power to heal wounds and close instantly, can instantly materialize giant screws, and to say he is a complete sociopath would be an understatement. He's all the negatives into one person intensified to the highest extent. This is why Medaka said he was the only complete human she had ever encountered. He's completely negative, which brings us into the thrilling -13 arc.